Okay, I am back. I've got a short weekend, only just one long afternoon to work this week. So you saw last video, I got the driver's side just about fit up, still a little grinding to go. Before I weld that in, I'm going to start working on the passenger side, get that floor pan mocked up and see how well it fits and see if I can get it somewhat level to the driver's side. People are rightfully commenting, and this is a personality trait of mine, that I'm being a little obsessive with getting it perfect. From the assembly line, it didn't come perfectly level, and if there was any twists or warps, they would shim it out to make the seat level enough so that it could go down the road safely. So one comment that was actually a really good put from Don's Manufactory, and I'll try to put one of those YouTube cards up here for his channel, was the twist might be a lot easier to manage if I disconnect the brace, twist it back, and re-weld it. Which I think that one we have good right now. If I run into that on the passenger side, I will definitely use that. It probably would have made this side a lot easier. So, all right, let's get at it. Okay, dropping in the partner to that one, the other Dynacorn seat riser here. Immediately I can tell on both front and back, you can see we're touching here at the back and touching here at the front, and then we quickly gap away. Difficult to tell right now, but I think at first glance it looks more linear, as in it's a straight and even, the gap just gets wider. Okay, similar to what I was doing on this side, I've got, let's see if I can show you my laser level all set up there. And again, they don't need to be perfect. Sorry, stand by. Let me learn how to operate a tape measure. So they don't need to be perfect, but I'd like the floor pans to be, floor pans. I apologize. These are seat risers. These are not floor pans. I don't know what mental block I have that makes me keep calling them that. Anyway, I want them to be at roughly the same level. So if I go here, just vertical from that, I got about 5 1/4, 3/16. So 1/16 shy of 5 1/4. And right now, without any weight on it, I've got 4 5/8. So I know that I've still got a big gap here at the front. If I put weight on it, it drops down a little bit, but now we're contacting along this flange. So a couple ways I could tackle that. I could bend the flange back and try to rebend it, excuse me, or I could cut it and re-weld it. I'm gonna start with bending it and see how far that gets me. That's gonna be the easiest and less invasive, if you will. So yeah, I'm gonna keep bending this and see how close we can get this to laying flat. Okay, actually, just that quick change of plans. Let me see if I can show you. If I put a knee on here just to get some body weight, we're starting to contact this front tab, which is fine. That's an easy one to bend back, but all along here we're contacting, it's going to be hard to show you, but I think the easier route, instead of recreating this L where it needs to be, is to keep this angle and start slicing along here and let it drop down to where it's flush. And then once I have it in place and measure it up nice and even with the other one, start welding it back. If I make the slice kind of here in free space a little bit, if you will, it'll be easy to tack back up, and just once it's dropped down and I know exactly where it's going to be, weld it on both sides. And similar with the back. Let me get out of the shadow there. It's spaced a little bit here, but contacting that corner as well, and just kind of where it's positioned. I think a slice right there and then just weld it back up. And because we have tons of access to take out the seat riser, we can weld both sides and make a nice strong weld on it. So I think that's my path forward. I'm going to get my PPE on and start slicing and see how much of a relief I need to make to get it to drop in there. Okay, I'm not sure if this showed up on the time lapse. I decided to go ahead and just cut off this flange to reposition it. It would be a nightmare trying to bend it back and move that L. And I think I've got it. It's going to be really tough one-handed, but I think I've got it to the point where if I had weight on that, it would be lining up flush. So what I'm going to do is put weight on it, tack weld a few spots along it, and then take the whole seat riser out and weld along the backside and get it nice and secure. Yeah. And let me see if I can show you. With it aligned with my alignment marks there, if I go ahead and put weight on it, bear with me for 1 second. All right, I am kneeling on the seat riser here, and we are really flush up against the floor up until here where the floor itself dips down. I don't know if you can see that. It probably made it worse. It actually dips down in the stamping and then raises back up here after you get to the floor support, and then we're flush up against all the way again. So that's super exciting. I don't have the same problem that I had on the driver side. Over on the passenger side, this is the best video ever, I'm sure. We're touching here inboard and we're touching outboard, and we have a pretty significant drop down, pretty significant gap here. So what I'm going to do after I get this welded back up, that flange, and everything in place, I'm probably going to do similar to what I did over here and just slice along, not along the curve. I don't want to have to match that curve again. Probably slice along maybe here, right above the curve, just enough so that I can drop it down and put a new, if it's far enough, and it looks like it might be, that's a good 1/4 inch, I'll probably just make a wedge and fill it in so that it comes more into contact with the floor. And I am trying to, well, first of all, I'm trying to find my tape measure. I'm trying to avoid my obsessive tendencies here and ignore a little bit of concern I have. So this hole, I'm just shy of 5 1/4. Over here on the, I don't have weight on that really, just the single clamp, but just shy of 5 1/4, so just over 1/8. Once I put a little weight on that, that will press down a tiny bit. So those I'm calling even with each other. And then kind of similar, this back corner, 6 5/8, 6 and a hair over a half. So within a 16th, and that'll press down a little more. So that's all well and good. Here, I'm looking at 6 5/8, 6 5/8. Let's check the front. Okay, here's where I've got the concern. Kind of similar, it's got a slight twist in it, but there's my 5 1/8, 5 3/16, and over here we're just at 5. So, you know, I'm gonna call it good, just because maybe I bend this flange a little bit here. I'm not gonna reshape this front. I can tell I'm touching here and I'm gapped a little here, so it's possible. Just bending this flange a little bit right there is going to bring it and drop it down. I'll give that a go and see how it behaves when I do that. But honestly, it's going to be solid and in there. And if this is just the only hole off, I'm not going to freak out about it. I'm going to press forward. All right, I got this flange welded back in, and my weld's mostly ground flat. I welded both sides, adjusted heat settings halfway through to increase the heat and got better penetration, which is great. And on the other side, I got them just flat enough to make sure I didn't have any breaks in the welds or anything. And you can see I started at this side and it was colder. Let me see if I can get you in tight without too much reflection. I started with stepping it along and then increasing the beads as I went along, and then increased the heat partway through, and it started getting much better. So what I'll do is spaces like here where it didn't complete the weld or just kind of sat on top, when I weld everything in, I'll go back along and just touch that up and clean it up when I do the big grind on the floor. So that's not anything concerning there. I'm happy with how this is looking. I'll have to do a similar thing here and rebend because this was interfering and actually still is touching, but so bend this back into a corner and tack it up so I've got a nice angle there. And then again with this tab, I'm more worried about the long length at the top than these, so I'm thrilled I got that, but I still have to do the same thing here, cut them appropriately and weld them back up, just so I get that support all the way around. But looking along here, I only have the one clamp, I don't have my weight on it, but I've got almost touching at the edge here or along here, touching all the way up to the floor support that I showed before, and then again after the floor support. You can see it's, if I push down a little bit just with one hand, it closes up, so that is excellent. The back side is still about the same, touching on the edges if I push down, and touching over here, but I still have this, gosh, maybe 1/4 inch gap. And so you can get a pencil eraser under there, so 1/4 inch, maybe a little more. Okay, I'm not sure if this showed up in the video, but I went ahead and underneath here just put 2 of my super handy jacks and a little 2x4 just right across the rear where that goes. Since the 2 corners of the seat riser are where they need to be and the floor kind of didn't have the right shape to meet up with it, I figured maybe we could try lifting the floor up to the seat riser, and this is how I'm getting towards accomplishing that. I don't want to crank down on here too hard, but I've got a fair amount of pressure, especially on this outer one. But let me show you the end result. So I still need to push down a little bit here, but we closed up quite a bit, all the way to here. You can use our handy dandy pencil again just to show. So starting right about where my finger's pointing to, that's where it starts to widen up, and then in the corner, it's shadowy, sorry, in the corner it doesn't meet the contour quite right, but that is significantly better than what it was. So I think what I'm going to do is take everything out from underneath and use that 2x4 or another one and try to hit it to actually bend the metal instead of a slow, the impact will help reshape it instead of just pushing up with the jack, and see if that helps close a little bit more. And then once we are as close as we can, then we'll look at a relief and going from there. But using this technique, instead of bringing this down to meet where the floor landed or is shaped, this should help bring the floor up to the shape it should be. Okay, I've been rearranging this, trying different things, tapping up on the hammer on different spots to try to get this floor to reshape a little bit and see what I got. And let me see if I can show you this. Things are looking actually really good in the middle here, but I started pressing up along this side here and got to a point where it not buckled, tin canned. I don't know the right term, but maybe you can see this. So it popped up a little bit in the middle here, just from where I was giving it pressure. And that allows it to, when I push down, now we are flat all the way to here, which is excellent. And when I push down and kind of get this side meeting, now it's literally just where this angle is. It's really tough to do this one-handed, sorry, and hold the camera. So it's really just between here and here, just that curve is not meeting the shape of the floor, which is a lot less egregious than what we had going on. So now that we kind of have that in place, I'm going to do similar to up here. I'm going to make my relief cut, bring this down to meet the floor so that this little back flange is flush here to here. And then I'm probably going to need to create a filler, because that's probably 1/4 inch there. We already talked about the size of that gap. But I can get the shape in place and then take it out and weld it up. And that should add back in at whatever strength we need to on there. Okay, I made some relief cuts. They look a little funky, but the cut along here was to allow that to drop down. And then the 3 vertical cuts, one here where I needed the bend to start, and then 2 here along that curve to allow this to reshape. And I've got this almost all the way flush. There's a little tiny gap here. I'm not freaking out about that. It's going to have plenty of spots to weld and get it solid. If there's a tiny gap there, I'm not worried about it. So what I will do, a lot of this is wide enough. I'll need to make something to fill in there. Probably the horizontal, along here and this vertical, I can just weld back up as is. But what I'm going to do is, with it pressed in place here, I'm going to put in tack welds at these joints so it holds this shape as I weld it up. So I'll probably put a few tack welds along here and maybe close this gap here and something else just to bridge it so it holds in place while I work on the rest of it. But I am super excited. This is actually really good progress. And these front are a little out of level. As I said before, I'm working on self-improvement, not going to obsess about that. and spend another full weekend getting these within like, you know, a 32nd of an inch. I'm not freaking out. It is very close to being lined up with the driver's side. If my passenger is tilted a little bit to one side, that'll be okay. We'll make up for it. We'll correct it in steering. All right, let's get welding. Okay, I am super stoked. We've got both seat risers and they are fitting flush enough to actually start welding in. I think you saw this before. I got the welds in. Not perfectly flat. Honestly, I don't know how much flatter I'll get. Maybe some of these I'll grind down a little more when I get back to it, but looking really good along there. And then here's the back where I made my cuts, my relief cuts. I wound up with a couple of odd shaped patches in there. And I didn't get all the way down into the corner there. You can see those welds kind of sitting there. So I'll probably go along once I switch out tools and something that can get down in the corner a little easier than the large grinding wheel. So yeah, let me just push down on that. You can see how much better we're fitting on the floor all the way along, and a little bit of pressure back there gets it all in shape. I don't know if this is visible. I tried to show you before. Let me try again. With the wood underneath there, the floor actually does change shape to meet. So once that, and I'm not putting down a ton of pressure, like I can do that with 2 fingers, maybe one if I really try, but yeah, that's going to weld up nicely. I'm not worried at all about that. And the front looks wonderful. Yeah, super excited. I still need to do these tabs, both front and back side, but those are minor compared to the large surface areas. Yeah, hopefully next weekend we get both of these welded in. If I'm able to, I might grind and get this floor all done from a metal perspective. That would be a huge accomplishment. But I'm at a weekend once again. That is all I have for you right now. Okay, if you're still with me, I appreciate it. Thank you so much for watching, and pretty soon we're going to be getting these in.